In this demonstration, you will learn how to use the customer's view model that you created in the previous clip for the customer's view. Let's switch to Visual Studio. In the previous clip, you created this customer's view model class that has a customer's property and a load async method. Now let's use this view model to bind the list view in the customer's view. So first, let's go to the code behind file of this customer's view. Here in the constructor, let's create an underscore view model field and let's assign a new customer's view model instance to that field. I press Ctrl dot to add a using directive for the view model namespace. The constructor takes an iCustomer data provider. So let's just pass in a new customer data provider to that constructor. I press again Ctrl dot to add a using directive for the data namespace. Now let's press Ctrl dot again to generate this underscore view model field in our customer's view. Let's scroll down a bit. Now let's set here the data context property of this customer's view and let's assign the view model to the data context. In addition, I create here an event handler for the loaded event of this view. In this event handler, let's use the view model and let's call its load async method. Let's await this method as it is an async method. So you also have to add the async keyword to this event handler. Now the view model is assigned to the data context and we load actually here the data. So next, let's bind to the view model in SAML. So let's open here the customer's view SAML file and let's scroll down to the list view. Instead of hard-coding all these list view items, let's close the list view element and on the list view, let's set the item's source property. Now let's use the binding markup extension. The view model is in the data context and the view model has actually a customer's property to that we bind. Now important, when the path property is the first property that you set on the binding markup extension, you can also omit it. So you can write it like this. Now let's run the application and let's see if the customers get loaded into the list view. Yes, as you can see, the customer class is shown. This is actually the result of the toString method of the customer class. As you have now a complex object in that list view, you need to tell the list view which property of that object it should display. You can do that by setting the display member path property. Let's say you want to show the first name property of the customers. Now let me bring up the application again, and now you see the first names are shown in this list view. When you select a customer, you can see nothing is shown here in the first name text box. Let's go again to the SAML document. Down here in Visual Studio, you find SAML binding failures. If you don't see this window, you can open it via the menu Debug Windows. When you open this, you can see here the text property of the text box and you can see content property not found on object of type customer. So this means here you grab the content property of the selected item of that list view. But now the selected item is of type customer. So instead of grabbing the content property, you can grab now here the first name property of the selected customer. Now let me bring up the application again, and now you see the first name is shown. So when you select a customer, you see the first name is shown here, and now you can even change that first name. So binding that list view worked. In the next clip, you will create a selected customer property in the view model that contains the selected customer of this list view.